Welcome to another episode of the Pit Press Podcast. This one happens to be live. My name's Ryan Tamori. We're going to preview tonight's what's turning into a big matchup for the UNM men's basketball team. They're at UNLV. Before we get into that contest, another panel, as always, my business partner in this endeavor, and he's joined by his son, Ben, Mr. Eric Moulton. Senor, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? Doing good. Yeah, my little guy decided to join me tonight, give
we-
his 2 cents in on the matchup, and he's got all the info on UNLV. So let's get into it.
Cool. We have a fifth negative person here. You can follow him at NM Sports Capper on Twitter. He's also a UNM alumni. All of us are UNM alumni. Mr. Jacob Neff. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Ryan. Ready for the game.
And all the way from the Bay Area, an MVP of a Filipino Rec League 35 and older male, two-time offensive state lineman under San Juan, Mendoza, if you watch The Simpsons, McBain. Mr. Rick Thompson, how are you, sir?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on. Ready to talk about this game, fifth game of the year for the Lobos in Vegas.
Hey, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Game 16 overall. This game tonight tips off in under an hour. There's a lot of Mountain West Conference action tonight. Big game in Boise, Colorado State, and Boise State. That game is about midway through the first. Maybe we'll wrap up with the odds at the end. Jacob, I'll get your thoughts on that. I will start with you though. Oklahoma transfer Jalen Hill. He tore his ACL against San Diego State in the second half on Saturday. How big of a Eric and I met him in Vegas. Dude was big body. What are your thoughts on him now out for the season with an ACL, heading into next year? What are your thoughts? And how is UNLV going to miss him, and how is Kevin Krueger going to miss him?
Oh yeah, I mean this is a big loss for them. He had been their most consistent player all year. Guard that can take you off the dribble. He can create his own shot. He actually has a decent shot from three. He's just an all around great player for them. He can distribute, and that's going to be huge for them. I think this broke not too long ago, if I'm not mistaken.
About a day ago, yeah.
Yeah, about a day ago. So they kept this pretty hush all the way up until now. But I think that with him out, you're gonna see them kind of rely more on Boone, who's the transfer from Oklahoma State. He's not as much of a shooter as him. He's a little more physical of a guard, but I think you're going to see him be matched up probably against Mash tonight because he is a little bit heftier, bigger guard, and that could potentially cause a little bit of issues for UNM just because of the size of our guards. But, this team's actually not that bad. If you look at them on paper, they have talent everywhere. However, with this, that's going to be a huge hit to them.
Rick, there are 4 or 5 guys that average double figures and that are starting, or 4 of those guys are starting for UNLV. That's quite a big point production. I mean, how do you stop guys that basically everybody's contributing points wise? I know they're 7 and 6, but from your basketball X's and O's standpoint, how important is that? And then being at home tonight.
Yeah, so I believe the Lobos haven't won there since the 2017-2018 season. We lost to them at home last year. I don't think we played in Vegas. So, we're due for a win there. And like you're saying, they got 4 guys, maybe 5 that can score in double figures, with the highest guy, Rodriguez, being about 12.5, and then a freshman, Thomas Jr. from Las Vegas, actually having a nice season, averaging about 12.5 also, along with 6 assists. So they'd like to move the ball, and I think that makes it tough on the Lobos. Everybody's going to have to defend tonight. No one can fall asleep. Mash did have a few steals last game, but I also saw him get beat on some backdoors. So I know we love to play offense, but House can't be the only guy out there playing D. And I think, we saw that last game with all the turnovers we caused. So I think if we're able to disrupt them, then that'll be huge and just keep them out of sync on offense because it looks like everybody on their team can put the ball in the hoop.
Luis Rodriguez, yeah, he does average over 12 points a game. Dean Thomas Jr. averages 12 points a game. Luis Rodriguez averages over 6 rebounds a game, excuse me. Dean Thomas is more of the disher. He's got 6 assists, 3 rebounds. You jokingly call Jalen House the pest from the late 90s John Leguizamo movie. What does House have to do tonight to stop either one or both of these guys?
I think he just has to be the disruptor and be active on defense like he always is, but we can't afford to get him in foul trouble because we saw 2 games ago in CSU how that got us out of whack. So I think he has to keep his emotions in check, maybe not hoist up as many shots and just try to focus on the defensive end and shoot the open shots when they're open and not force it as much. But I don't know, he can't stop both guys alone. It's going to be a team effort with help side defense. The big guys have to be able to help off, but the UNLV also has some big guys that can finish, right? So it's going to be a challenge. Team defense and also guys off the bench are going to have to step up.
Eric, just your overall thoughts on.
Yeah, I think a lot of this starts with how House is going to impact the game on the defensive side, especially guarding Dean Thomas, because he's kind of the guy that gets everything going. You mentioned, Ryan, he averages about 6 assists a game. He's the primary ball handler, and there was a reason that he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. Krueger did a good job of keeping him in Vegas because he's a local kid. But he does struggle at times with a little bit of the ball pressure, and there isn't anybody better at providing that kind of defensive ball pressure than House. So I think just looking at that from kind of like a get-go is going to be kind of the dictator of the flow and pace of the game. And if House can cause some havoc and stay out of foul trouble and continue to push the pace a little bit, I think UNLV, their guards might struggle a little bit just to kind of get them in rhythm and get them into an offensive rhythm. And then on the offensive side, it all starts with the ball movement, man. I know we talked about it on the podcast prior. A lot of guys can do a lot of damage if they have their opportunity. I'd like to see Baker get some shots up today, especially with House, Dent, and then Mashburn being able to create off the dribble, penetrate. I think a lot's got to go inside out. We got to get Top in his looks too. For me, it's just really sharing the basketball and kind of getting some offensive rhythm and flow going to the game and get it going early, knock down some shots.
There's the word of the day, Neff, penetrate. I've said that I think that Jamal Baker Jr. is the X factor. Getting 0 shots, 0 points, 0 looks, big 0 there. I don't know how this team wins without him. Rudy Chavez chiming in. Oh, it went away. Sorry about that, Rudy. And by the way, congrats to the University of Michigan on that national championship last night. Not good for us. +5 Washington bettors there. And thank you, Edward Dunn the second.
I can attest to it. They both are goobers.
Yeah, we are. Jamal Baker definitely needs to get shots. I think that would help. I am always the negative Nancy, naysayer, glass half empty kind of guy. I don't know how many times I say that. Eric, when we started this, I'm not talking trash. Positivity, Mr. Homer. Ed wants to see them win. But if you're a Lobo fan, what do you want to see tonight?
I want to see them share the rock. I want to see them move the ball up and down the floor. I want to see some crazy defensive pressure. To me, this is a must-win game. Look, you're looking at just the overall conference schedule for these guys. They don't get to go and play some of the lower tier teams on the road. They don't get a game at San Jose State, right? So they're not going to get a winnable game on the road there. UNLV is kind of one of those lower tier teams in the conference right now, middle of the pack, where they can actually go on the road and get a quality win. And they're not going to get many opportunities after that. I mean, we saw what happened at CSU. They're going to have to go to Boise. They're going to have to go to San Diego State. They're going to have to go to Utah State. Those are all tough places to play, man. So this is kind of a must-win, prove that they can win on the road, face a little bit of adversity. So that's kind of what I'm looking for them to accomplish tonight.
I know in that Rudy comment it said 70%. I didn't get to it quick enough, so my bad, Rudy. But I'll ask Rick about that. Neff, I will ask you this: defense and rebounding will be keys. Making 70% from the line would definitely help. I was going to ask Rick about the free throws. Hell yeah, that's very important. From a net and Ken Palm rating standpoint, Jake, as of today, net 35 for UNM, 40 for Ken Palm, still right in there. UNLV 112, Ken Palm 99. Thanks, Eddie. Can they win the conference? Should they win the conference? Probably both of those. No. Jacob, you can answer that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not really into them winning the conference right now. At this point, I think that they have some work to do if they wanted to get to that point. Should they win the conference? I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, you got a team like SDSU coming off the year that they have, and yes, they lost some pieces, but I mean, they're still SDSU. And then you've got Colorado State, obviously, who's ranked in the top 25. Utah State ranked in the top 25. And what we've seen from the Lobos so far, I wouldn't say that they should win the conference. So that's my answer to that. And then, Ryan, what was your question?
We're done with that question.
We're done with that question. What was your question about the Ken Palm?
Just overall, how would this?
Well, yeah,
how would this affect UNM, Ken Palm, and net wise?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, we've beaten a couple teams inside, in the net 65, 70 range, and up into, I think, the 50s at one point. Maybe UC Irvine was floating right around there when we played them and beat them. But this is going to, like Eric was saying, I mean, we don't get very many chances this year at easy road games, right? And when you look at the way UNM has played so far on the road this year, we have 3 true road games where there's actually a crowd against you. And it's St. Mary's, New Mexico State, and then Colorado State. And in those games, we've lost 2 of 3, and we won one of them by 1 point at the very last second, right? And I think UNLV is a much more talented team than New Mexico State. And we've already seen that they hung around and went to double overtime with St. Mary's. So they have pieces right now. Of course, we just talked about this, that they're playing a little bit down from tonight because of Hill, which is who I think is their best player. But it's still a chance to get a win on your record, beat one of the, if you want to say, bottom tier teams in the Mountain West so far. And, they need this type of win, because if you go look at the top 25 that came out this week, there's not one vote for UNM. So we're already in the eyes of the committee and the people voting on this. I don't think they had a vote, right?
But Jeff Gremmer was talking about it. He was tweeting at people that they.
I think they had one vote in one.
Well, that was the coach's poll. That was the coach poll. So one coach, who probably maybe even could be Patino or somebody at that point, could gave him that vote. But I mean, we're already getting recognized as not even having a top 25 vote after we were, I think we were like 4th or 5th standing to move up into the 2025. So like we were around 30 on their rankings, and then we lost to CSU by 12. And then we beat Wyoming by 17 at home, and you just completely lose all your votes. So it's already kind of being looked at by everybody too, I think.
Well, it comes down to just overall metrics too of playing the quad 1 and quad 2 games, right? They're already 0-2 in those quad 1 opportunities with St. Mary's and Colorado State. And then a game against Wyoming that they should have won by 20 plus, 30 plus. They just didn't do that. So it all comes down to metrics, right? And it's all like the power metrics, and being able to, a lot of them are driven by score and by differences in score and how much you're beating the bad teams by.
I'm going to hit on some of the comments here. Here's Theory of Cap. What's up, guys? Go Lobos. Here's Miguel Sanchez. Dent Baker and Washington don't lack for size at the guard position. Rick, your thoughts on that?
I would say Yeah, Baker and Washington are both good size wings out there. I would say Dent, is a good size for a point guard at the college level. We match up well, I think, with this UNLV team and most teams within the conference, even with when we play our 3 guard starting lineup. Just because the way that we get after it on defense, I thought it would be a mismatch, but after these first 2 games with those 3 guys, I think they have have a positive plus minus. Even in the Colorado game, in the limited minutes they played together, they were effective with the 3 guard lineup. So I don't think our size is going to be a problem. I think the size is more a problem in the post, right? When we get into foul trouble, there's not a third post that can really come in and spell our 2 starters of Toppin and Nelly. And I think UNLV, they're going to want us to shoot the 3 ball because we don't shoot it at a very high rate. So I think free throws, like you were hitting on earlier, will play a big part in this game, which we haven't been good at the past couple games, and that could be the difference maker tonight. So free throws, and I don't think as much size as turnovers and free throws.
Now, granted, it's at the high school level, and Eric, I'll ask you this question because you want a state title. I feel maybe not so much the NBA. I think of Kawhi Leonard in 2013 missing the first one, hitting the second. Ray Allen ties the game in Game 6. But how important or demoralizing can free throws be during the course and the flow of the game, Rick?
If you're the team that's missing them, we saw it against Colorado State, right, where we had that dry spell. It's not that we were getting bad shots or turning the ball over when we started losing control of the game. It's that we got fouled 4 or 5 possessions in a row, and we only made 1 out of 2 or 0 out of 2 on all those possessions, and that's where we got frustrated, lost control of the game, and then it was over. So it's one thing to get to the hoop and get fouled, but these guys got to finish, especially with Nelly, who is not converting a lot underneath the last couple of games. And, I think he's around 68% or maybe a little lower on the season. So, it's huge. Think of Hack-a-Shack. Maybe teams might start doing that to us down the stretch if we're going to continue to shoot this bad.
And very fitting that Shaq was there. Hey, look, Ice Baby, let's go Lobos. Ice Man or Vanilla Ice, Ice Baby, let's go Lobos. Eric, what are your thoughts? As far as the importance of free throws. I never played a single second of competitive basketball in my life, but I have a hat that says, "Hey, make your free throws." How important is that? And then I want to ask. I'm going to go back to Rick, and then I might hit up Jacob about this Nelly question. But your thoughts on the free throws?
Well, it's pretty simple with me, right? They're free. You gotta. For them to be effective from the free throw line, I don't see anything less than 80%, which is a high clip for a team to come in and make. But I think they got to live at the free throw line, especially with if you want to focus on getting Toppin and Nelly the ball down low, they're going to draw a lot of those fouls, and they got to be effective and knock them down, or UNLV is going to be able to keep the game close. I mean, that goes unsaid for, a lot of teams, right? But you got to knock down your free throws when you get the chance to get them. So if you don't, they're missed opportunities, and you kind of leave points on the floor when you do that.
Here's this comment. Miguel Sanchez again. I believe that I believe in The Simpsons. Lawyer Lionel Hutz's alias is Miguel Sanchez. Start Washington over Mashburn. Short lease on House Hero Ball. We were talking about that with Mashburn. Periodic Toppin to Nelly high, low post. If only Nelly would go strong to the rim, we would be miles better. Rick, your thoughts on that comment?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Toppin to Nelly high-low game. That's been effective for us whenever we get it to Toppin on the free throw line, and he's able to either take it himself or give a nice entry pass down to Nelly. I don't think it's time to pull Mash out of the starting lineup yet. I think if you do that, that would crush him and just his morale going forward for the rest of the season. I think he still deserves to be in the starting lineup, but the way that he's used has to change for this team to hit their peak. And I've talked about it for weeks. It's up to how the coach and how he decide to move forward this season. He can't play the same role that he's played the last 2.5 years if we're going to hit highest levels. He has to take less hero ball shots, as that commenter said. I think they were referring to House, but I think Mashburn is the one that sometimes forces it up when, we're down a couple of shots or something. He feels the need to put it up. He's obviously talented, but I think his shots need to come more off of dense penetration and more off of getting it down low and then kicking it out. I'm not opposed to running an off-ball screen for Mashburn every now and then when the offense is dead, because he can hit it, but he has to make a conscious decision to change his shot selection, and he'll still be starting for the rest of the season.
You know who I was thinking of the other day when we were recording the podcast and his name didn't come off was Remy. Jacob, I'm going to you on this. Remy Martin. He was that ASU transfer to Kansas, and he came on the bench. And not only was he going to contribute in the national title game in that comeback against UNC, but he was stellar for them unselfishly throughout the season. I feel, and I've said it, and I get a lot of flack for being the negative shit talker on this podcast, this site, but Mashburn is up there with one of my favorite Lobos. Now I'm pushing 37 years of age. Charles Smith, Kenny Thomas, the guys when I was at the Daily Lobo that I covered, that I had the pleasure of covering and get to know. We talked to Doris Gary the other day. He's great. I love Ferris, Darrington Hobson. I think of all those guys. Obviously Michael Cooper. I relate to the guys in the late 90s, Kenny Thomas, Royce Only. Going off on a tangent here, but is there possibility of him having a role like Remy Martin? I'm not saying that they're going to go win a national title at all, but maybe deep in the Mountain West Conference tournament and getting into the big dance.
I would like to say whatever is best for the team would be what everybody would want to do, right? But I just don't see that from these guys, to be honest with you. I think, and I tend to agree with Rick. I think that Mashburn should start. I just think that they need to think about shot selection, where it's going at the time of the possession. Understand that they have 30 seconds to shoot the ball, and it doesn't have to be shot up within the first, 10 to 12 seconds of the shot clock when they get down there and they're not able to hit a transition layup or whatever the case is. Because actually tonight you're going to see a really different style. UNLV is actually ranked I think one of the highest as far as time of possession for the other team in the defensive end. So they force you to take shots later in the shot clock. I think they're like 350th out of like, I think what is it, like 360 something teams in the NCAA. So they're going to make you get your shots off late in the shot clock. And if we go down there and we're just taking careless shots like we've seen, it starts to get infectious, right? And I think that that's sometimes where Mash, he doesn't really process the point of the game and stuff like that. We've talked about it in the last couple podcasts. When you're on a 6-0 run, you're on an 8-0, or the other team is on a 6-0 run, 8-0 run, whatever the run is at this point, and you just come down the court and you take a off-screen jumper with 22 on the shot clock or 21 on the shot clock just to get a shot. Then it starts getting infectious to the other guards, because the other guards are like, what's going on, man? We're not even running an offense here. If you're just going to take the ball down the court and shoot it within 8 seconds, I want to get my shots too, right? And then we've seen that start to get infectious. And like I said on the podcast on Sunday, I think you start losing the interest of the big guys. And then once you start losing the interest of the big guys, you've got guards just wanting to take shots right away. It turns into a mess, right? And that's going to have to be avoided. So I don't think it's necessarily as much as what Mashburn's talent level is, and if he was better to come off the bench. I think it's just that these guys need to settle in and understand that there's a lot of talent in the starting five, but they've got to share the basketball so that all of them can show that talent, and it doesn't need to just be all creation by themselves for that. They could create it off of passes and stuff like that. That's my opinion.
Another thing we talked about on Sunday was Wyoming. Didn't Wyoming out-rebound UNM on Saturday night?
They did by 4 for the entire game.
Defensive rebounds for UNM, 118th in the country, UNLV 256. I think this is a tough test for the Lobos tonight, but I'm leaning the last year of watching basketball. Who can college basketball? Who can rebound the best? I mean, look, if you're going to go deep in the tournament, it's depth and rebounding. Eric, I'll throw it to that question to you. Again, UNM, the Lobos, it's their 16th game tonight. They're at the Thomas Mack Center in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. I wish I was there and not in this 20-degree weather in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, which feels like Minneapolis, Minnesota. Games on FS1 tonight, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time tip. You can get that action on FS1, and you can also listen on the Lobo Radio Network. That's 96.3 KKOB. Rob Portnoy and Hunter Green on the call. Eric, just your thoughts on the rebounding, how they can do that tonight.
Well, one thing we didn't really even touch on are the Boone twins for UNLV and how effective they are. One's an elusive scorer. One's kind of like a stretch four, if you really want to call them that. But they're 6'8", 6'9", athletic and very physical, and like to get out and run the floor. And we definitely haven't played against a combination big like that quite yet. So I think it's going to impose a little bit of a difficult challenge, especially early. And we know how thin the Lobos are at the bigger positions. So really kind of keeping them out of foul trouble, but kind of utilizing a team emphasis rebounding approach. I think they've got to really hit home with kind of sending those guys in from the perimeter to kind of help those guys rebound. Because if not, it's UNLV thrives, especially Justin Weber, right? He's probably their more premier 3-point shooter, but shooters like that thrive on second chance opportunities. And if the Lobos aren't effectively rebounding the ball and they're providing chances to UNLV at home to get a second look at the shot, like threes are killer in that type of situation. So I'm looking for these guys to kind of go ahead and give it a team approach on the rebounding side, limit how many touches the Boone twins get. Keelan and what was the other one's name? I know they're both transfers, one from Pacific and the other one came from
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. So they're both very talented, and I think we haven't really kind of give them their due diligence yet, but we'll be on the lookout for those two.
Again, about 30 minutes to tip off. I think what I wanted to get is probably into the predictions, and I'll start with you, Eric, and then I'll get to the gambling aspect with the line with Jacob here in a second. The Lobos are favored by 2.5. The over-under is 151. I've seen 150.5. It's a lot of points, although I think they can run. If you're looking for a straight money line bet, UNM minus 134, UNLV plus 113. So if you feel like making an extra $13 tonight, hey, put $100 on UNLV. UNM minus 2.5. Eric, what are your thoughts and predictions for tonight?
I think the Lobos cover on the road, and that's not me just throwing out a homer pick there, but I think it's really going to come down to the ball pressure that House and Dent can put on UNLV's guard, especially that Deedon Thomas. I know he's a sought-out, high-profile, 5-star point guard coming out of high school. He even graduated a year early to attend UNLV, but I don't think he's faced that kind of adversity or that kind of ball pressure yet. So that's kind of like the key matchup that I'm looking at here. And once you kind of impact the game and really put their primary ball handlers in some awkward situations, then you start to impose a little bit of more problems down the road for UNLV. So I look for the Lobos to cover that 2.5 on the road.
We got a lot of negative comments on our last YouTube page and our last episode upload. So this is nice. Hey, thanks, Ricardo. This is awesome. You're awesome. Rick, it's like everything is awesome from the Lego movie. Rick, your thoughts and a prediction for tonight?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an up and down game. They turn the other team over about 14 times a game. They average 76 points a game. So I think if we take care of the ball, we should be fine. But if we're the ones causing turnovers, I think, we can take control of the game. The things that we always talk about, it'll come down to the foul trouble of the bigs and probably of House, because he's their emotional leader out there. When things get out of hand, he seems to always be the one with a key shot right now or a steal. I don't think the Lobos win tonight, though. I haven't been impressed the last two games. even though the last game everyone is saying, can't we just be happy with this 17-point victory? No, I can't be, because my thoughts on this team are much higher, and I don't think they're being coached in the correct way yet. So I don't think they win tonight.
I'm probably leaning that way, Rick. I'll give my thoughts here in a bit. Jacob, again, -2.5. Vegas likes the Lobos. 150.5, 151. I think that's a lot, but I think as we get into the bigger, better conferences, not like the mid majors or the automatic, the one bid leagues, just teams aren't as talented and they struggle to score. I could be wrong on that. But if you were betting tonight, who would you take?
Yeah.
And what would you take?
So I'd actually I would stay away from the line, because I think the Lobos could win this game. I think they have the talent to win this game. I think Hill being out is a really, really big deal. If he was in this game, I would say they're going to have some trouble, because they do have some size and they have some athleticism on the outsides. And we lack that besides Washington and Toppin. I think we lack that a little bit. But for me, with Hill being out and the way he's been playing, I don't know if you guys have checked the box scores. That guy's been putting up 20 points a game for, almost consistently for the last like 4 or 5 games. So they're missing 20 points out of their starting lineup. I think, like Eric was saying, we're going to see a lot of ball pressure. To me tonight, the bet is the under in this game at 151 points. And the reason why I say that is the Lobos don't shoot the ball particularly well. And we haven't been shooting free throws well. And if you actually look at UNLV, they're like in the bottom 50 teams at getting to the line. So there's not going to be a lot of free points in this game tonight. So for me, the bet is under. But for me tonight, if I had to pick a side just on who's going to win, I think the Lobos win this game, but it's going to be a nail biter, and they're going to have to really, really claw and fight to squeak this one out.
I got a text from PJ Montoya, Lobos by 5. Joe the Jeweler on Twitter, or excuse me, X, Lobos by 7. I apologize. I've had the flu, got better, and now I'm congested and nasally again. So sorry for sounding like a nerd. I think 2.5 is quite low. I don't understand, and I have a friend that Rick and I have a friend that went to Seton Hall, who is sort of a Big East junkie. I know he's probably doesn't watch as much as he did. I mean, he's expressed his hatred for Jim Boeheim, and he texted me. Where I'm going with this is he texted me, and he just wanted to remind us. I think Creighton's playing right now, but he wanted to remind me that Creighton has 2 losses at the time, and that they shout out Tim Chavez, and that they had. He's definitely not listening, but Rick, but he was like, "Hey, man, the Mountain West Conference is 2-0 against Creighton. Colorado State got him, and then UNLV got him, and UNLV got him in Vegas." The key thing, and we didn't even touch upon it, is looking ahead to what is Saturday. And I think everybody in this conference has said team from Southern California, and America's finest city, and my favorite city, and home of my favorite baseball player of all time, Tony Gwynn. God, I'm going to get a lot of crap for that. At San Diego State. San Diego State is here on Saturday. The game's at noon Mountain Time, and it's on the big boy. It's on CBS. I've mentioned that. If UNM, this is a crucial week for UNM. You're at UNLV tonight, which is a game on paper. Again, you should win. San Diego State is a home game. Early in conference play, it's something you need. And then next Tuesday night, Utah State, who is now 20th, and Danny Sprinkle has done a phenomenal job with that team. This is when you looked at the schedule, you're like, they should probably get maybe, I don't know, split those or go 3-1, maybe 4-0. This is just bottom line, just a tough 3-game stretch. And I think that the Lobos can eke out a win. I hope that they are not looking ahead to tomorrow night. And maybe this is a night, and Eric, you're probably like, what are you talking about? You never give them any praise. I think that they should probably go in and win. I think I've learned that, and probably from a gambling aspect, but and we're in January. NFL playoffs start, like going on the road. Give me the away team. There's more to play for. So I actually like UNM to cover tonight, and I kind of like that over because, I'm still in this, but life's too short to play the under. And then I had a buddy of mine who writes for CBS Sports. He covers the NHL. He once told me taking the under is the coward's way out. So that's how I feel tonight. Here's Miguel Sanchez again before we've got to wrap things up here. There's no case for Mashburn starting either on offense, defense, or decision-making. Washington plays more reliable. So we have a big, true Washington fan in tonight. Any final thoughts from either three of you? Eric, I'll start with you.
One, I think Mashburn starts no matter what, just because of the threat that he poses on the other team and having to submit a defensive lineup to attribute for Mashburn, House, Dent, Toppin. Like, it's just, they're kind of a matchup nightmare, right? Until you start to get in the rhythm and flow of the game, and then let Patino kind of move his chess pieces around after the fact. But that'll be my final thought. And as we're on right now, I think Boise State still holds a 30-23 lead in the second half with about 16 minutes to go. So
30-25.
It's a tight one at Boise.
Rick, any final thoughts?
I met my wife in Las Vegas. I proposed in Las Vegas. I love Las Vegas. I wish I could be there tonight.
Like a true gentleman.
But I think, it's just going to come down to involving the bigs and moving the ball around on offense. I think Mashburn has kind of been a kink in the armor, shooting it too early. So can we gel? Can the starters gel together, and whoever come off the bench, can they be effective for us? I think that's what it'll come down to.
When we turned 21 and we all went to Las Vegas, Rick, I walked from the Plaza down to the MGM at like 4:00 in the morning, inebriated, and probably one of the worst moments of my life.
Barefoot with all the other.
No, I was in dress shoes and slacks and a tie and a shirt because we went to some club, and then Floyd Mayweather walked in with popping champagne bottles, and they were on like sparklers. You remember that, Rick, right? I forgot about that. And then we took a photo with Wayne Brady at Valet. I forgot about that. It was just, hey, I'm Wayne Brady, but Jacob, final thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's going to be making your free throws on the road. We've talked about ball movement.
I'm interrupting you. PJ says that you'd never like the Lobos versus the spread. Laugh out loud.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just me being scared to pick against or to take my own team. I do that with the Cowboys too when I'm betting NFL. But I think we got to make the free throws. We got to get the ball movement. I think if just one game gels, and they see that the chemistry's hitting, maybe we turn a corner, and they see that it's successful. Another thing to highlight, it's $2 beer night at UNLV. It's going to be packed.
Oh, you stole that from me.
Oh, did I steal that from you? My bad. It's going to be a crowd.
I'll throw this last. Go ahead.
What was that? What were you going to say?
No, I was going to throw this last one in there. Over under for Baker shot attempts. I'm going to set it at 3. Go.
You got to go 3.5. Is there a prop?
Yeah, what do you got?
3.5, huh? Yeah,
I would say I didn't look at it. It's probably Donovan Dent over like 15.5, 16 points, right?
I would assume so, probably, with the way it's probably usually right around their average is what you can look at when you're looking at points per game. If it's me with the way this offense is running, it's under 3.5 all day because I mean he hasn't. I don't even know if he's taken three shots in the last like 3 games. So it needs to be over, but with the way that it is right now, I'd say under.
Man, Lionel Hutz, lawyer from The Simpsons, alias Miguel Sanchez, is really on it tonight. Miguel, we appreciate you commenting. I'm not making fun of you. It's just it popped in my head because I'm a big '90s junkie Simpsons fan. No, and I think he's kind of right here. Nobody is owed anything. Minutes are earned. Alfred Sackins, he did. Alfred checked a lot of people when he got here. Daniel Ferris talks about it. Darius Gary talks about it on his last podcast. He even mentioned that Ferris got the wrath of like Alfred's first season. It was great. Alfred Sackins to get his attention and alignment. A small, no D, low percentage shooter is not owed minutes or shots. I kind of agree with that. I think the only sad thing is the world of NIL and transfer portal has changed a lot of that. These players aren't going to take any crap. Eric, go ahead. You're on mute.
No, I was just saying I agree with you. That's a good point. I
Yeah,
think
no,
NIL factors into a lot of it.
it totally does. And Rick and I's favorite person on the planet from Last Chance U on Netflix, Coach Jason Brown, talks about that all the time. How he uses a lot more profanity than I. Yeah, I was gonna give my final thoughts like on Jerry Springer. $2 beer night at Thomas and Mack Center. Man, if I still drank, hell yeah. I have said for years that if UNM wants to get butts in those seats at football games and the basketball games, dollar beer night. And if I was athletic director, which Eddie Nunez does a good job, hey, dollar beer night. All right. Anyone with a basketball IQ knows you don't bench mass. Just need to figure out dent mash house combo. Isaiah just wanted to say thanks for the live podcast and episode. Go Lobos. Hey, we appreciate that because we got.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you for. We really truly mean that. I have done a little bit of media here in town at the Daily Lobo, the Journal. I was on KNML for a year, the Sports Animal on Saturday mornings. Basically, other people on YouTube the other day told us to go to hell, which I appreciate. But we appreciate all the kind comments. We appreciate the support. You guys listening. This has been a work in progress. We are now a year old. We are still a baby in this. And I think we look a whole hell of a lot better. Definitely our logo and not the $20 Fiverr one that I paid for a year ago. Hey, shout out to Ryan Kellogg. This feels like a must win for the Lobos, Kevin 18A on YouTube.
Yeah, well, we talked about those road wins, those quality conference road wins don't get the opportunity very much this year, and so this is one of them.
I think that it's like Tom Berenger, and I can't think of the catcher's name, the position he plays. When they find out that the owner, Showgirl's wife, the ex-owners, the dead owner's Showgirl's wife is trying to move the Cleveland Indians to Miami, and Lou Brown, the manager, that's his name in the movie, not the actor, but he lets the team know. And the players don't know what to do. And Tom Berenger, who's this veteran, who plays a veteran old catcher, stands up and says, well, I guess there's only one thing to do. And that's when the whole expletive thing. And I've said that, even though I think a lot of people will give me crap, I try not to play the homer, but I think that, they have the capability, they have the talent to do this. I just wanted to say, Joe the Jeweler, I don't know. I don't think you bench mash. I don't think coming off the bench as a sixth man is getting benched. I think you are a role player. I understand that he is mid-range mash. He is one of the purest shooters from that area in all of the country, probably. But I think that you have got to. I think you've got to figure out. These guys have to figure it out. I know as cliche as it sounds. I think there's too much talent on this team. Rick, you attest to it. I like X Factor, gents. Keep the heart up. No, everyone has a Lobo basketball podcast. Jealous, maybe. Terrence Mirabal, thank you very much. Actually, I don't know what some of that means, but all right. I think that
these guys he's asking for what the X factor in the game will be. For me, I think it'll come down to us knocking down some 3-point shots, and I think it might be a few from Baker, hopefully. So hopefully Eric, he gets over 3.5 shots up, but I don't know if he will. But if we can knock down a handful of threes, that always changes the game for us. So I think hitting a few 3 balls and just keeping turnovers down and foul trouble will be the X factors for us tonight.
I would say Miguel Sanchez, the Tausch mass, take more than 30%. More than 30% of total shots UNM loses. Terrence Mirabal, sorry, keep up the hard work. No, it wasn't a knock at you. I just didn't understand that. I'm glad Rick figured it out. I think that the X factor tonight, and I said he's been it for the season, is Jamal Baker Jr. This is coming from a fan, not an X's and O's guy. I want Jamal Mashburn on this floor. I want him to maybe be more of a role player and figure that out. And when they need a shot, I don't know, change it up. Do what Michigan did last night. I know that was a football analogy. Isaiah on X, is Applehand still out with an injury tonight? I forgot what Patino said post-game Saturday night. I think it's ankle or leg. I haven't seen a status. I haven't seen anything on Jeff Grammer's Twitter. I didn't read anything as a 36-year-old guy in 2024 that still buys and gets a physical paper, because that's what my background's in. I don't have an update on that. I apologize. Eric, did you hear anything? Jake, did you hear anything?
I didn't hear anything, no, but usually they've been on top of giving us the information, decently early-ish before the game because of, seeing who's dressed and who's not and shoot around. So I'm hoping he's dressed, because even a spark of him hitting a 3 or 2 off the bench is big for us if he gets in.
Eric, you didn't hear anything, right?
I didn't know. I didn't check Jeff Grammer's MySpace page today, so.
Did you hit his top 4 friends, or?
I hope so.
Yeah, he was.
The top.
Jeff Grammer.
I don't know if we're in his top 10.
Jeff Grammer filleted me on X a few days ago because I said I didn't like the yellow jerseys. I said they're not creative or retro. He's like, they're not supposed to be. I'm like, sorry, bro. I love him. He got me. He was right.
Tonight's starting lineup is Dent, Mashburn, House, Toppin, Nelly Jr., Joseph, of course. I don't know what we can and can't say live on the episode, but hey, Nebraska, Jacob, 41-30. And by the way, 2 + 2 = 4. I just think for time constraints, this is our first live pregame. Again, we tried to do it before Colorado State. I had the flu for like 3 weeks. Then Eric got it. We were down and out. I've never been that sick in my life. We like doing this. It's a hobby. It does take up a lot more of our time, but we appreciate doing it. So we're sorry we didn't get out a live pregame show, CSU. We plan to do it live before every away game. I will try to see what we can do prior to San Diego State. I know that we're going to have a joint podcast with Aztec Breakdown. There's Joe the Jeweler. This team is deep and have only played together once this season. I believe they will be fine. It's been 2 or 3
years about all establishing that chemistry, but they got to do it quick because
there's not much
important games coming up.
Great.
Yeah, there's not much time. You just can't lose too many more of these games, especially on the road, like we were saying. To these lower, because everybody's going to be expected to win their home games. These are the ones that we have to win. And if you lose these, it really puts a dent in you.
Great job on the live, fellas. Stay blessed. Hey, Joe the Jeweler, we appreciate that.
Thank
Again, everybody that's listened, everybody that, regardless if you hate us and you tell me to go to hell or write Vankman, you stink on the office door to my on the door to my office on my college campus. That was a Ghostbusters joke. Sorry. Hey, we'll appreciate it. Whatever we want. Again, all 4 of us sitting here are UNM alumni. Rick has an MBA from there. Eric has an MBA from there. I have 2 undergrads from there that I can use to wipe my ass. Steve Bible Grammar said everyone is available. So there you go. There's your answer to Apple Hands. Again, I didn't see it. I apologize.
Fresh off the MySpace page.
Fresh off MySpace. What's Tim's Twitter handle, Rick? Our friend Tim. It's my new MySpace page. At my new MySpace page. He had to change it because I think it was Cosby Sweater, and he was getting hate tweets when Bill Cosby was at trial for naughty things. We appreciate everybody to follow him at NM Sportscap, where we'll all be live tweeting tonight. His name is Jacob Neff. Jake, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate that. That's going to be fun moving forward to do this. And as always, I thank you for having me on.
Always. And big sexy in the Bay. The Bay don't play. Mr. Richard Thompson, thanks for your insight, man. I'm glad you joined us.
Thank you, guys. Let's go, Bows.
And my business partner in the Pit Press podcast or the Pit Press site, Mr. Eric Moulton. Hey, man, have a good night. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Signing off. Much better. Not fully 100%, but I had to pull the Michael Jordan flu game a couple nights ago, so we're back in it.
How are John Stockton and Karl Malone? To $2 beer night. My name is Ryan Tamori here at the Pit Press Podcast. Everybody enjoy the game tonight, and we will have a recap for you probably, hopefully, tomorrow night because of the big San Diego State game. Here's some real big fish for you. Everybody have a good night.